Good morning, everyone. This is Yvonne here from the Aussie Goddess to do your bonus read for Sunday the 9th of December. I just did half a video and then realised I hadn't pressed the button and I realised how tired I am. So I've got one reading this morning, I'm going back to bed. Gonna have a lazy day. And finish off the weekly readings as well at some stage or another. So they will be out. I think there's about 5 more there. So if you're waiting on them, they won't be far away. Okay, bonus read. So the What's Cracking read was a bit strange this morning and talked about the give and take. And in the read I just did, the King of Wands flew out again, who seemed to be the main person in the What's Cracking read. So maybe some of you need to consider someone around you who takes on the attributes of the fire sign and understand that they're taking more than they should be and they should be giving. So let's see what the bonus read does. We're using the Ciro Marchetti deck here. All right, well, that's a bit different. We have the card of the Lovers straight out of the gate. So the Lovers talks about a twin flame relationship or a relationship of, two people coming together. This card is absolutely beautiful. He's really her gladiator in this. It's just beautiful. Okay, so for some of you, today is about love. Okay, so first off we have the Ten of Wands out. So this is a card where you're carrying a lot of energy around with you. You're struggling to carry this at the moment. So something's been really, really weighing heavily on your mind. I do know in the background of this one the moon is full though. So maybe there's some information coming in that will allow you to put this bundle down, because you really are struggling with the weight of this at the moment. Oh, very nice. We have the card of the Sun coming out next. So this talks of happiness and joy, and it talks about shedding light on that moon, shedding light on your dark side, shedding light on things that were unknown before. So it's like the universe brings in the sunshine when you need to see things how they really are. Okay, and then we have the Seven of Wands. Now this card came out in What's Cracking too, and this talks about feeling like you have to defend yourself. It's like always standing up for what you think is right. In some ways that can be a good card because it talks about understanding that you need to stand up for yourself. But sometimes it can mean that we become a little defensive and a little bit, too defensive over what things are saying and doing. What people are saying and doing. Okay, and then we have the High Priestess. Interesting. Again, a few major arcanas out for this Sunday read. The High Priestess is talking about using your intuition more. She's a woman who uses her intuition all the time. It sort of talks about secrets again, but it's more things that are unspoken. It's like you aren't speaking up and saying something here. You aren't trusting that thing in your gut that says to you need to say something. Okay. All right, so this is about the past. So it could be, when I look at this like this, it could be that you're carrying something around that you've always carried around with you since you were a child. And it shows me here, for some of you, this is about not defending yourself and about not speaking up when you need to, which sort of comes on the back of the What's Cracking reading this morning, which is quite interesting. Okay, so what the universe is trying to say to some of you, we talk about this equal give and take. This is in relationships, this though. So maybe that's what the What's Cracking was about. But this is sort of more looking like love relationship here. Now, for some of you, there's a real burden you're carrying around, and it could be within your relationship. But it's more likely this is within you. It's your personal thing. And the Sun is here now to shine a light on something. So something's about to happen to break that open for you. Because this here talks about, not speaking up for yourself and not defending who you are. Not being able to, like taking too much crap without saying to someone, you can't treat me that way. So the universe is doing something here to shed some light on this. Now, because I've got this card of the past out here, I'm thinking this is something you learned to do as a child. Maybe your parents always said to you, you couldn't speak up. Did you hear the, little children should be seen and not heard? Because we did when we were young. And we really believed that we couldn't talk to adults. We weren't allowed to. It wasn't our place. We weren't, in a position to do that. So for some of you here, this is about feeling like you don't have a voice. Okay, so then we have, oh wow, we have the Empress out. She came out in the What's Cracking reading too. She's in the centre of this reading, and you have the Hanged Man too. Very interesting. Different pack, completely different pack. Okay, this is about you seeking enlightenment about this. This is about you understanding this part of yourself that you don't see yet, if that makes sense. So sometimes we do things subconsciously or unconsciously. These are parts of ourselves that surface when we think they need to surface, but we're not really in control of them. We don't realise we're doing the wrong thing because we were taught at such a young age that was how you did things. So there are people here who are getting light shone on this. This is about not speaking up for yourself and not defending yourself in situations. Now, what's happened here is obviously some people are in relationships where they're carrying around the whole burden of the relationship themselves. Now, again, this doesn't have to be romantic, although I did get the Lovers under the first card. So maybe this is a lesson you have to learn in love. Now, somebody did write to me yesterday and say, I don't know what my dark side is. And that's quite interesting that I get this reading today. So maybe your dark side is about you understanding some of these things you've done since you were a child because you were taught that was okay. People are scared to speak up for themselves. They fear conflict. They fear rebuttal. And they also fear that they're going to lose someone by being honest about something. So they keep it inside of themselves as a secret, and it becomes a burden. It becomes full of regret and bitterness and angriness because all of those things that you've got trapped inside you here that you haven't defended yourself for, they cluster and they form something much worse than what they should have done if they were spoken. So you become angry and bitter about it. Now, what the universe is saying here, that although you've had this from childhood, we're going to make you see things in this Sun and this Hanged Man. We're going to make you see things very differently. You're going to start to understand why this speaking up and being honest and defending yourself is so important in relationships. Because if you don't do this, you get a toxic relationship. You get a toxic relationship because the other person isn't exchanging with you. They're withholding. So what happens is they're doing all the taking, you're doing all the giving here. You get angry about having to give all the time. They think it's their right to take, and you get bitter and angry. So the universe wants to bring something in here to change the way you think about that. This is what this reading's about. So this would lead to broken heart, okay? So what the universe is saying is if you keep going this way, that is what's going to happen. You're going to end up in a broken heart. And it's about these fears and things you've been taught from a child here. This guy carrying this 10 of Wands, it's a heavy burden for him. Some of you have really had enough here. You're going to have to go inside and find this enlightenment because you're not living your true life here as the Empress. Okay, and then we have the 9 of Wands. That makes sense here because this is about always feeling like, that you're being wounded, you're being hurt by someone. This is, for some of you, will send you into a victim mentality. That becomes very toxic in a relationship. So if people are wondering what toxicity is when we talk about it in relationships and talk about relationships being toxic, that's what it is. You're either giving without the other person and the person does all the taking, or you're not sticking up for yourself and telling people what you rightly deserve. And if you're carrying that 10 of Wands around, it can only go one way or the other, and the heartbreak, of course, is the most obvious way it will go. Okay, at the end of here, we have a Page of Pentacles. Now, I said to you lots of times before, this card always comes up when it talks of karma. It's like this guy's giving you back what you deserve here. The Page of Pentacles is about tangible things and about money, But for some unknown reason, whenever I do readings, I look at him and I think he's saying to you that this is karmic here. This situation is karmic. You're being taught here to learn how to change the way your maybe family has done this for many years. Maybe your family's always been like this. Maybe your parents taught you to be like this. I've got to say to you that there was a lot of patriarchy in our society, and a lot of the time, and I don't want to be offensive to anyone here, so do not take me offensively, but it was often the way that women, and especially because in terms of the Bible, and you can comment on the Bible, but the Bible itself teaches you that man is more important than women. So it's about always giving it up for the man. So a lot of women are taught to be quiet and not to speak up and to run around and do everything for their husband or their man. We're trying to break down those constructs through spirituality, because what makes a man any different to a woman? We are all the same. We are all this empress here. We are all this empress energy. We are all important. And I hope that, a lot of people are teaching their children now. We're starting to teach, boys how to do things that girls can do, and we're starting to teach girls that they can do things that boys can do. So we are starting to break down those old-fashioned constructs around what a girl can do and what a boy can do. Now, I know that people will argue that there are some physicality issues between boys and girls, like boys are able to lift more because they're more muscle-bound, got more muscle content. And women, of course, can have babies, which men can't. So there are lots of things between the two, yes, that stand differently. But I'm talking in regards of personal treatment of each other. And we still see a lot of cultures in the world today where women are treated very differently to what men are. And in a respectful way, I mean, in a way of kindness and love and respect for each other. I have friends who are the same, so please don't get me wrong there either, where one of them is much more giving to the relationship than what the other person is. But what this reading is talking about here, and a lot of you need to hear this, you need to learn that it's equally as important for the other person to give back to you. If you want to have a relationship that's not toxic, then it has to be you standing up and saying, you know what, I really love you, but honestly, sometimes you need to understand that I am, not the one that needs to do everything here. Sometimes you're with emotionally cold people, and that is pretty hard to fix, because if someone's become emotionally cold, there's sort of not a whole lot you can turn that around with. But that's why we have, psychologists and marriage counsellors to try and understand that. But anyway, deep and meaningful readings today, and I've got card back to front here, and it's the pets one again. Interesting. That came out for the first reading, and I was like, why are we giving pets? And I just kept thinking, it's really sad, isn't it? Because I've seen dogs that have been so badly treated by people, and they're timid and shy and everything, but they'll still won't hurt anybody. It's really sad. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we have the card of curiosity here. It says, start a project related to something you're curious about. Now, this is quite interesting because there's a cat in here. And you know me, I harp on about cats because cats represent the intuition. And I'm thinking, is this about understanding your intuition here? This life isn't all about fantasy. So maybe you need to go deep inside and understand what it is about you that needs to be awoken. Because something here is telling you that you can't be this way anymore. If you want to have an equal relationship like in the Lovers, you've got to start off from this place of honesty and sticking up for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be carrying the burdens of this relationship, and it's going to end up in heartbreak. Now, you could be carrying this karma from a lot of generations too. So you may be fixing what past generations have done. Have a wonderful Sunday.